So next up, we're leaving color behind for a bit, and we're going to talk about text and different properties that we can use to manipulate text. It's text alignment, the font weight, is it super bold or very lightweight, is it italicized, line height, letter spacing, and other things, including font size. That's actually missing from this list for a good reason. We're going to devote an entire video just to font size and the different units. So all of these properties have to do with text. And let's begin with text align. Before we go any further, I'm working in an empty document. Well, it's not empty, in a new document with no styles, just to keep things simple. The previous document with all those ugly colors was getting a little messy. So I copied some of the content from the Wikipedia page for cuttlefish, one of my favorite animals. You can download this code and follow along, or you could just type anything that included an H1 and some paragraphs and an H2 and some H3s and that sort of thing. It looks like this when I open it in the browser. Nothing crazy. Okay, so we're going to play around with text align first. I do need to make my app.css, or I already have it, but I need to connect it. So I'm just going to do that quickly. App.css, they're in the same directory as you can see right there. Okay, so text align is what we use to set the horizontal alignment on an element. Now that does not mean how an element is aligned on the page itself, not spatially where it goes, but within an element. How is the text aligned? So let me show you an example. Let's play around with one of these paragraphs, or maybe the H1 is where we can begin with. So this H1 right here, there's only one of them, but I'm technically selecting all of them. H1, text align, and right now it's set to left by default. I could set it to center, and I'll refresh, and now it is center aligned. It just so happens that the element itself goes all the way across the screen, right? You can see there in the DevTools. So it's aligned to the center of that. And if I did text align right instead, it's going to go all the way to the right-hand side. There you go. But let's say I gave this H1 a width, which I recognize we have not yet covered, so don't worry about this. I'm going to give it a width of 50% of the page. Okay, now this is still aligned to the right. Can you see that blue box there? That box only goes halfway across the screen. So text align is not going to move the entire H1 around. It only operates within the confines of the content for that H1. Or for a paragraph, could do the same thing. So I think I'm going to go back to center align here. I could do paragraphs, text align, let's do right. And now they're all aligned to the right of their respective paragraph sort of content boxes. So that's text align. The next property we'll take a look at is font weight. So font weight is how we can control the boldness or lightness of a given piece of text. There are a couple different ways that we can set this. We have keywords like normal, bold, lighter, bolder, and we also have numbers, 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on. Typically, the most common weights are going to be 400, which is usually normal, and 700, which is bold. And it's important to note that not every single font on earth is going to have all of these available weights. So font is actually a topic we'll cover later on, and specifically how we include our own custom fonts and, use some nice cool looking fonts. For now, we're going to just talk about font weight. So I'm going to head over here on my H1 and set font weights to, why don't we start with normal? Because most H1s by default are bolded. Now it is normal weights. If you can see that there, it is large. It's bigger than this text, but it is not bolded. I could also do a number to go back to bold. I could set it to 700, and now it's bolded. I don't know if we'll have access to extra bold. Let's do 900. Yeah, so the browser, this font, whichever font it is, the default font for an H1 in my browser does not come with all those different weights. So I'm just going to go back to 400 or normal. It's the other way you could write that. So if you try and use a font weight that cannot be found for this given font, like if I tried to do font weight 100, the browser is just going to pick the closest one that does exist, which I think is 400 in this case. So we're not getting anything else. It looks exactly the same as it would if I had said 400 or if I had said normal. It looks exactly the same as if I had said 400. Yep. Okay. So remember, we have not yet covered changing fonts. I can't even remember if it's Arial or Times New Roman. That's the default font in Chrome. But anyway, we'll learn how to add fonts in and customize all of that. For now, we're working with the defaults, and it might be different depending on the browser you're using. But font weight is how we can make something bold or unbold something. So I guess I should show the opposite, taking a paragraph or something that's not bolded and making it bold. So all paragraphs are now going to have font weight of, I could say bold, or I could write 700. Oh, that is just hideous. I'm not going to do that, but that is how I would bold something. So the next property we'll look at is a bit different. It's called text decoration. And text decoration is actually surprisingly complicated. We could devote a lot of time to it. Complicated is the wrong word, but there's a lot to it. Text decoration controls the appearance of decorative lines on text. So this is how we control things like if there's an underline, if there's an overline, if there's a line through. So I'll just quickly show you an example. Why don't we make, I guess on our H1, we'll set text decoration to be underline, just like that. I'll refresh, and we get an underline right there. Well, there it is. We could also set that to be overline, and it goes above, and we can set it to, I think it's line dash through, and we get a strike through or line through, which can be nice if you're doing a to-do list or something like that, and you want things to be crossed off. But it's actually more complicated than this, than just doing an overline and an underline. We can specify the color. So I could say something like, I want a blue underline, and there it is, a nice blue underline. Or I could use any of the other colors that we've learned about. So I could use a hexadecimal color. I'm just going to make one up here. Whoops. Let's see what that looks like. All right, it's an orangish color. There we go. But it's actually more complex than that because I can also control the style of the line itself. Is it a dotted line, a wavy line? What else do we have? Just a solid line. Let's see, if we look at this property, text decoration style, solid, double, dotted, dashed, wavy, quite a few different options. Let's try wavy. So wavy like that and save. Okay, there's our wavy underline. So I think that's good enough for now. Most of the time I'm just using this to either do strike through, or another common situation is to actually remove a default underline. So if I add an anchor tag in here somewhere, let's do around mollusks right here. I'll do an anchor tag. href will just be nowhere. And I'm going to put mollusks in there. Save, refresh. By default in our browser, we get this underline. And if I don't want that, I believe on Wikipedia they actually remove that. Yeah, all of these are links. There's no underline until I hover at least. To do that, I can use text decoration and set it to none. So I can select all my anchor tags, text, decoration, none. And I'll refresh, and now it's gone. So we still have that color. We could change that, of course, but you definitely want to make your links clear. You don't want it to just look like regular text. But if you want to remove that underline, that's how you do it. So that's most of text decoration, although technically we also skipped the thickness. You can change the thickness of the line, but this is just way above and beyond what we need to know for now. But you could make it a really thick line or a thin line, but we'll just leave it at that. Next up, two pretty quick ones. Line height, which controls the height of a line of text. So you can see here, this is a normal line height, just whatever the default is. Now we go up to 2.5. There's a bunch of units you can use. We have not yet talked about units. We will cover that shortly. But if you just put a number in there, this is going to take the font size of whatever the element is and just multiply it by 2.5. So basically 2.5 times the normal font size for that line. So I could make something double spaced if I wanted to. I could take my paragraphs and give them a line height of 2. This is what they look like right now. Let's look at this one. Now it's double spaced, just like my old essays in middle school and high school. Got to pad them out. We can also do things like make it smaller. I think we can shrink things down. I'm not sure if I've ever done this. Ooh, that's quite the headache to look at, but it is possible. Let's go back to 2 for now. So that's line height, ignoring the other possible units. They all do the same thing, though. They all control that height of each line of text. So it's not controlling the text itself and its size, but the height of the line. You can see if I highlight something, let's refresh, I'll highlight one of these pieces of text, that highlight extends far beyond my text to the height of the line. And then we also have letter spacing, which is how we can control the spacing between letters in our text. So I can use a bunch of different units again, which we still have not yet covered, but I'll just show you an example. Let's do a trendy H1 here. I'm going to do letter spacing and space them out quite a bit. How about, 10 pixels between? Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks okay. We could even do more. How about 15 pixels? We have not yet covered what pixels are, but there we go. I'm getting slightly nicer looking H1. I mean, it kind of looks horrible too, but it's at least different than what we had before. So those are the basic text properties for this video. We covered text align, font weight, text decoration, letter spacing, and line height. Most of them are pretty simple. The only one that really requires a lot of explanation is text decoration. It can do a lot, but most of the time I just use it to remove an underline or set an underline or strike through. I don't think I've ever actually used the wavy thing in real life. Usually it's just a straight line. Alrighty, so next up we've got more important text properties, things like changing the fonts and changing the font size. We need to talk about units. That will help us a lot if we understand what pixels actually mean and what ems are and rems. So that's all coming up.